I'm Chris Bussing. Welcome to my podcast. It's committed to helping more people create a life of freedom and impact through success in sales and the pursuit of self-development. We have an incredible guest to start the new year off on the right foot, Bob Burg, who is a sought-after keynote speaker and co-author of The Go-Giver, which is a book that has inspired a global movement to encourage people to show up differently in sales and in life to create a life of impact and a life that is truly rich and rewarding. In today's conversation, we're going to dig into 5 principles of stratospheric success that the Go-Giver speaks to and learn as much as we can from Bob in this 30 minutes. So Bob, thanks so much for being here. Happy New Year. How you doing this morning?
Happy New Year to you. I'm doing great. And I so appreciate your having me on the show.
It is so great to have you. True privilege and amazing opportunity for the audience showing up live today. And for those who see this video as it floats out into the YouTube see, let's dig into it. My understanding is that you started out in broadcasting and then fell in love with sales. Can you talk a little bit about that journey and why you ended up falling in love with sales?
Yeah, I mean, I did start out as a broadcaster, first in radio and then television on a TV. What was a local network affiliate, a very, very small network. So the good news, very small station marketplace. So the good news was you got to do everything. You had to do everything. So there were times you know, as a reporter, you set up the camera yourself, you did the story, you did the stand up, you did all the taping, and then you came back, you produced it, and you were ready to go on air. So it was great experience, but I wasn't really that good at it, and I quickly recognized that wasn't going to be my life's work. And so really, just to make some money, I started selling and knew nothing about it. And really, the training that I received was negligible, So I floundered for the first few months. And then I was in a bookstore and came across some books on sales. Now that doesn't sound like a big deal today, but 40 years ago, unless you knew they were there, you just didn't know, right? It wasn't as prolific as today. And the books I stumbled upon were written by Zig Ziglar and Tom Hopkins, two of the legends of the sales space. They were even back then. They still are, but known as the best of the best. And so I got the books, and I like to say I didn't read them, I devoured them. And because it gave me this hope and understanding that, hey, there's a methodology to this. It's not just knocking on doors, talking about your product or service and hoping people were going to buy, but there was a methodology, a system, if you will. And Chris, I personally define a system as the process of predictably achieving a goal based on a logical and specific set of how-to principles. The key being predictability. If it's been proven that by doing A, you'll get the desired result of B, then you know that all you need to do is A and continue to do A, and you'll get the desired result of B, right? So wonderful. It's
a beautiful thing.
It is. And so, I mean, within weeks, my sales began to go through the roof. And, but at that point, I started to get really hooked on sales because I realized it was much more than just the how-to aspect of sales, which is important, but there was much more to it. It was much more of an inside job. And I was recommended all these books to start reading, such as How to Win Friends and Influence People, and The Magic of Thinking Big, and Think and Grow Rich, and Psycho-Cybernetics. And I mean, just these, the greatest salesman in the world, and all these. And I'm realizing, wow, I mean, there's a universe out there I had no clue about. And it was about building yourself. It was about building yourself on the inside first, understanding that success is an inside job. It manifests outwardly, but it begins right in here and right in here and right in here. And once you start doing that, now you're on the track. So I fell in love with the whole process.
Success is an inside job. I love that. When you get everything together internally, it manifests outwardly. And to me, I feel like sales demands we bloom into the best version of ourselves. So we develop our character. And would you say that sales helped make you a better person overall?
Oh, absolutely. I can't imagine myself not having been in sales. And, as far as I'm concerned, I'm still in sales. I mean, we're always selling ourselves. We're
Yes.
selling our ideas. We're selling, right. And I think of sales, because I really wanted to be a broadcaster. I mean, I really thought I probably would have made a much better game show host than
You
a
sound great.
oh, thanks. But, yeah, I probably would have enjoyed that. It would have been more along my lines. I wasn't a very newsy person. I am now as I've gotten older, but back at 23 years old, I didn't really understand the news and really didn't care. I mean, I was probably even too intuitively positive for the medium anyway. My idea of a good opening would have been, "Hi, I'm Bob Burg, and the news tonight, everything's great." You know,
That's
go to
how I
bed,
would do the news.
let you know if something comes up, right? Yeah. So I mean, so I didn't expect to get into sales. And then once I got into sales, I didn't expect it to open up these new worlds for me. So yeah, I credit pretty much everything, in terms of knowledge and so forth to and helping to build character, certainly by being in sales.
Can you paint a picture of the go giver way?
Sure. It's understanding that shifting your focus, and this is really where it all begins, right? Shifting your focus from getting to giving. Now, when we say giving in this context, we simply mean constantly and consistently providing immense value to others, understanding that doing so is not only a more fulfilling way of conducting business, it's the most financially profitable way as well. And not for any kind of way out there, woo woo, magical, mystical type of reasoning. Oh, just do good things, give, and it will. No, not that at all. It's actually very rational, very logical. When you're that person who can take your focus off yourself and focus on serving others, discovering what they need, what they want, what they desire, helping to solve their challenges, helping to bring them closer to happiness. When you can do that, people feel good about you. They feel great about you. They want to get to know you. They like you. They trust you. They want to be in relationship with you. They want to do business with you. They want to tell the world about you. What John David Mann, my co-author, and I call being your personal walking ambassador. And that's really what the Go Giver Way is all about. Focusing on the giving, creating that benevolent context for success, and then allowing yourself to receive with gratitude.
Yeah, it's so cool to hear you, talk about the Go Giver Way after listening to the audiobook last
Thank
night
you.
on my
Oh,
plane ride home from
thank
Florida
you.
to Austin. And you sound exactly like the mentor figure that the
Oh.
main character Joe runs into, and he takes him under his wing. And thank you for being our mentor today
Oh,
virtually, to
well,
everyone
thank you.
showing up. And I'd love to start to dig into these 5 laws. And are they law? I forget if the exact term is laws or principles of stratospheric
Um,
success.
they're both we call them the 5 laws of stratospheric success, but they're principles. They're based on universal truths and laws, nothing that John and I made up. I mean, it's these have been around since since there've been, well, market economies, right? The successful people have always done these things. Now they didn't always know that's what they were doing. Some did them very intuitively, others learned. But all we did was kind of rename them and put them in an order that made it easy to absorb. But again, there's nothing, certainly nothing new about it. The laws themselves are the laws of value, compensation, influence, authenticity, and receptivity. And the first one, the law of value, really is all about the entire experience you provide that other person. And not just in the sales itself, but from the moment you meet that person, whether it's inbound, whether it's outbound, whether it's at a personal meeting somewhere or on social media or wherever it happens to be, from the moment you meet that person, through the relationship building process, through the follow up and the follow through the sales process, through the referral process, it's making that other person feel genuinely good about themselves, right? At every single touch point. So by the time this sale occurs, it's not just the intrinsic value of your product or service that they're benefiting from, though that, of course, is very important, but it's the entire experience itself. So we want them to always feel as though they're receiving much more in value, right, than what they're paying for, while, of course, we make a very healthy profit. And in fact, really, in one of my mentors, Harry Brown, used to say, in any free market based exchange, and when we say free market, we simply mean no one's forced to do business with anyone else. You do it; people buy, sell, trade with one another of their own volition. In any free market based exchange, there should always be two profits: the buyer profits and the seller profits, because each of them come away better off afterwards than they were beforehand. So that's really law number one in a nutshell.
So law number one is about offering so much value, in fact, way more value than someone is even paying for. And that,
Sure.
based on listening to the book, that determines how much you can possibly make. But law number two determines how much you actually make. Am I on the right track?
Oh yeah,
And if
yeah,
you're yeah, feel free if you wanna flesh out anything more, because I mean,
sure.
we can go in the weeds on the story and the
Mhm.
characters, but I know we have limited time. But, if there's anything else you wanna flesh out on point one, then we could then kick it to,
No, let's
two.
actually take your great point and bring that into point two, and then take to law two, then take it back. Law number two, the law of compensation. This says your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. So where law number one is all about giving them much more in value, right, than even what they're paying for, while you make a healthy profit. That law number one represents only your potential income. It's not enough to provide that exceptional value to just one person. Law number two, right, which says it's the number of lives you are able to impact, that's what determines your ultimate income. So when you take exceptional value, law number one, and significant reach, law number two, now you're talking about very high compensation and a whole lot of ecstatic customers and clients.
So within this law, when I was listening to the book, I stumbled upon the 3 universal reasons for working. Do you want I can read those, or if off the top of your head you remember
Oh
those?
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I'd
it's
love to dig into those.
survive, sur- uh, survive, save. Third is save. Oh my gosh,
No,
what's
you're right. Survive, save, and then, serve.
survive, save,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
serve. And
Ser
so, and really the save is also invest, but it was easier to go with
yeah.
3 S's. Yeah. And so, but what's interesting about that is that really, when you think about it, it's the third one, serve, which allows you to survive and save. So it's really not like it's just, from one to end. It's sort of a cycle. We probably even, but the reason we made that point is because the more that first, when people go into any kind of sales, just like I did, it was to survive. You had to make enough money to survive,
Exactly.
right? Then, of course, the more money you make, the more you can save and invest and so forth, and reinvest. And then the serve part is so that you can really bring value to the world, even over and above uh, what you're doing as a profession. Okay. But the interesting thing is, it all begins with serving, right? Because until you serve another person, you're not going to even be able to survive. You'll never earn enough money to survive.
I thought it was really well put that we do start out meeting our basic
Sure.
needs and surviving by making enough income, and then we break through to another level. And this is common in the tech sales journey. This channel is very focused on the tech sales path, where you move up to account executive, you start doing well, enterprise sales, and then you're expanding, or
Mm,
you're saving, and it helps you expand your life. But
exactly.
serving is the highest level of operating. And even though on the three I guess the 3 universal reasons for working, it seems to come last, it's really first.
First. Sure.
And you mentioned that, it's not a bad question to ask if something makes money or not, but
Right.
it's not the first question you should ask. And so is it, in fact, that does this serve people, is really where we start?
Yeah. So here's the thing, and this is where the mentor Pindar was talking with his protege, and Joe, and Joe. Pindar had made a certain point about Rachel and her coffee, and about how one day it was going to really, break out, and it, right. And Joe kind of conspiratorial whispered to Pindar, yeah, if you could, put that into, if you could mass, do that, you can make a killing, right? And Pindar said, well, Joe, let's kind of discuss words, because I talked about how it could serve a lot of people, and you talked about making a killing. And so I want to make sure we're kind of coming at success from the, the right direction. And Joe said, well, I mean, are you saying that asking if something will make money is a bad thing? And Pindar said, no, absolutely not. Asking if something will make money it's a great question. It's just a bad first question. First ask, does it serve? Now, let's take this past the nicey nice, oh, I just want to serve. Okay. It's a key question, because nobody, and by the way, I've said this for years at sales conferences, right? Nobody's going to buy from you because you have a quota to meet, right? No one's going to buy from you because you want the money. And no one's going to buy from you just because you're a nice person.
But I want it really bad.
Right. And yet they're still not going to buy from you for that reason, right?
Exactly.
They're going to buy from you. Why? Because they believe that they'll be better off by doing so than by not doing so. And that's the only reason why we should ever expect anyone to buy from us. And so, and that's a good thing. And so what he was saying to Joe is, if you first ask, will it make whatever you're bringing to the marketplace, whether it's something new or something that's something already in existence or whatever, asking first, will it make money? You're putting the cart before the horse, because they're not going to buy from you because you think it's going to make money. Okay. First ask, will it serve, or is there a market for it? If you want to be even, if you want to be more, just down to earth, right? And
Yep.
it just is there a market for it? And by the way, that could mean, is there an already made market, or is there a market I'm willing to build, which may or may not take more time than you're willing to do? These are all very important questions, because we're talking about business. But
Yes.
So you got to first ask, will it serve? Will there be a market for it? Will people want it? Will people buy it? Now, if the answer is yes, now you've got to ask, will it make money? Because you could have a huge market for it and everybody could love it and want to buy it. But if you're losing money on every sale, well, now you've got a very, very expensive hobby. And while hobbies are a great thing, that's not what we're talking about here. So yeah, asking if something will make money, very important question. Just not the best first question, right? First question, will it serve?
I love the balance of practicality. You need to start with service, but you do need to make money, And so I noticed that the character, one of the mentors in the book, and again, to the audience, I love this book because it's a parable, it's a story, and it makes it move fast, and it just
John David Mann was the lead writer. I mean, this guy's a brilliant
really
storyteller. I mean, I could not have, I'm a how-to author. I'm step one, step two.
Of course.
So, I want to make sure, I give credit to John, because this guy, he was great.
I noticed that generosity, by the way, when I did the LinkedIn teaser and I said, can't wait to have Bob Burg, and you made sure you called out your co-author, and that's just right there, being a giver, being generous.
So.
But, okay. So, and I just noticed that, I don't know if it was Sarah, the CEO of the ed tech software for education.
Yeah.
She embodied this second law of like the more people you help, the more you make. She was a teacher. She helped classrooms of students, but then she invented a software that she was scaling to support millions of people.
Exactly.
And so anyways, I know we have limited time. So moving on to a law that was my favorite because it reminds me of my father. The law of influence, and we can get into it a little bit, and maybe I could share how it makes me think of my
I'd love that.
dad. But tell us about the law of influence, number 3.
Yeah. So the law of influence says your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. Now, this sounds counterintuitive, counterproductive when you first hear it. Sounds counterproductive at best, and maybe even Pollyanna-ish at worst, right? No. You think about all the great leaders, and I'm sure your dad, that, greatest leaders, greatest influencers, sustainably top producers. They always look out for the other person. They're always looking out for the other person's interest. Now, let me clarify this too and qualify this. When we say place the other person's interest first, we're not talking about being anybody's doormat or a martyr or self-sacrificial in any way. Absolutely not at all. It's simply, as Joe learned from several of the mentors in the story, the golden rule of business, of sales, is that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. And there's no, Chris, there's no faster, there's no more powerful way of eliciting these feelings toward others than by toward you, I should say, than by genuinely moving from that I focus or me focus to that other focus, looking for ways to, as Sam, one of the mentors, advised Joe, make your win all about the other person's win. And that reminds me of my dad as well. So I'd love to hear about yours.
Yeah, so my dad works at a pretty exclusive golf club in Naples, Florida, Naples National. If you like golf, you're taking care of Bob and get out there to Naples, and it'll be a great round. He works with a lot of very successful people across business, professional sports, politics, etc. And he always says, Chris, take care of people, make it happen. He's a locker room manager. He doesn't own the golf club, but he offers such a high level of service and literally knows these members' needs before they walk in the door. He will
Mhm.
do things like cleaning their socks. Like, it's unbelievable. He'll set up dinners and he just takes care of them. And he has what you referred to in the book as personal walking ambassadors
I'll bet.
that are in the highest places that are willing to, support and provide experiences to him and his
Mhm.
family. And it feels like family to me. And he's been at this club for 30 years. And it's just,
Wow.
they might make him like a memorial after him or something. And so that's just, he's such an inspiration to
Sounds like
me
a
because he
great
always
guy.
says, take care of people and make it happen. And I just lit up when I read this law because it made me think of my father. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, that's the nicest compliment you could give me. Thank you.
Yeah. So personal walking ambassadors, I kind of painted a picture, but could you add a little more color to what that looks like? Because it also seems that they're not just like potential clients.
Right.
It's like these are people that have your best interest at heart. Take it
Right.
away.
You hit it right on the head. You may or may not ever do business with these people. Not everybody needs your product or service. It depends what you do. But these are people who, again, they know, like, and trust you, and they want the world to know about you. They know that you're a person of high character. You're a person who's always going to have the interests of those other people at heart and in mind. And and they love to spread the word about you. Those are your personal walking ambassadors.
Two other nuances to this one. The term enlightened self-interest, I just thought it was a very cool term. Any other thoughts on like what this means, say to you or when it's
Well,
brought up in a book?
well, I mean, I think people think, and this is John and I call this the treacherous dichotomy, or the false dilemma, which can be defined as the unnecessary use of the word "or." And that is when you think something has to be one way or the other. Oh, I'm either this giver who just, gives themselves away and won't receive. I'm a victim. I'm this and that, but I'm going out just give till it hurt, right? Or I'm some horrible narcissistic, self, right? And no, not at all. It's wonderful that the way life works, so that to the degree that we give value to other people, that's the degree we typically receive back in abundance, right?
Yes.
And so, I think it's a wonderful thing. And you know, I like when I love to kind of sometimes help people see who are stuck in that duality of one or the other, that it isn't one or the other, right? It's both.
Yes. So I see we have a little over 5 minutes, so rapid fire to close it out. We'll hit the remaining laws, but I do have to still double click again on this law of influence with like win-win. I think you had mentioned it's out the window. Forget win-win. Could you speak to that?
Yeah,
How, it's not 50-50 and
right. And
yeah,
so, yeah, that's a great point. So here's what it is. It's not that win-win isn't a good thing. Win-win's a great thing when both sides come away better off than they were before. That's wonderful. the point that Sam was making, and I think this holds so true, is that a lot of people say win-win when what they really mean is, I want to make sure I don't lose, or I want to make sure that I give just enough, or even 50-50, right? When what we know is that really it's about giving 100, right?
Yeah.
And people say, well, do you mean don't expect good things to happen? No, expect great things to happen, but don't be attached. Don't be emotionally attached to things having to happen in the way that you believe. But you can very easily understand, because of human nature itself, that the more value you give to others, again, genuinely and authentically, right? Give to others, you're creating what we mentioned earlier, that benevolent context for success. You're creating an environment where so many people know, like, and trust you, want to be your walking ambassador, right? Want to do business with you, that great things are bound to happen. And so, yeah, that's really what we're talking about. So, yeah, win-win's great. It's just that, it's not just a matter of saying win-win, and that's where I think people get stuck. It's
Yeah.
really wanting that. It's making your win about the other person's win. It's that 100% instead of thinking 50-50. It's, how can I give 100? Now, when you do that, you attract a lot of other people like that into your life. And the more you do this, and the more you attract these people, because remember, those people also know those kinds of people, you start to build this very,
Mhm.
very powerful network.
Yes, 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 and it just giving up, keeping score, like, I win here,
Absolutely.
and now it's your turn to win, and 50-50, but
That's
just
50-50.
giving
Yeah,
generously and unconditionally. Okay, the next, law, we're almost done here, the law of authenticity also
sure.
reminds me of my father, who I call the big guy. He's this, like, real life cartoon character, just totally himself. Can you, describe the law of authenticity and why it matters?
Yeah, well, the law of authenticity says the most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. And in this part of the story, Deborah, the mentor at this part, said that all the skills in the world, the sales skills, technical skills, people skills, as important as they are, and they are important, they're all for naught if you don't come at it from your true, authentic core. But when you do, when you show up as yourself day after day, week after week, month after month, as I'm sure your dad does, and as my dad definitely did, people feel great about you. They feel comfortable with you. They feel safe with you because they know who you are. They know who they're going to get. Authenticity isn't just saying whatever comes to your mind, which I think it's been hijacked to mean that lately. Just say whatever you want. It's authentic, and no, that's not what authenticity is. My feeling, my belief is that authenticity can be defined very easily. It's acting congruently with your values.
Mm. Yeah, in sales, as a seller, I was recently thinking that, and after looking at your, book, listening to it, that, maybe one of the differentiators of what I'm offering is, in fact, me. And would you say
It
that's,
is.
actually, in the relationship being offered? So,
That's what it
um,
is. Yeah.
and if anything, it's just a great reminder to be authentic and not, and to give up, like, tactics and techniques, right? So, okay, the, final law, the law of receptivity. Can you
Receptivity.
speak
Yeah.
to this one? This was a cool one.
Sure. Oh, thank you. This says the key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. And here's really what this means. It's understanding that, yeah, you breathe out. Well, you also have to breathe in. Again, it's not one or the other, right? It's
Yeah.
both. You breathe out carbon dioxide, you breathe in oxygen. You breathe out, which is giving, you breathe in, which is receiving. Unfortunately, the world around us gives us a lot of horrible anti-prosperity messages all the time. We see it. And we've got to be able to, to kind of question premises and say, no, no, that's not right. You know, Giving and receiving are not opposite concepts. They're simply two sides of the very same coin, and they work in tandem. It's not, are you a giver or a receiver? That's that false dilemma, right? It's, no, you're a giver and a receiver. But what we know is that the giving comes first. This is universal law, laws of life, laws of nature, laws of uh, human nature, economic nature, physical nature, right? We plant before we harvest. We sow before we reap. We give before we receive. But so long as we're giving fantastic, immense value to others, we're touching the lives of many people, we're placing their interests first, we're coming from our authentic core. Now we understand about giving and receiving. Now we're ready to, to be able to take this and turn it into something just fantastic for everyone involved.
Bob, thank you so much for giving to us today to start off the new year, your time, your attention, your insight. Wishing you an amazing year and really hope to have you on again in the future. We hit time, so I want to let you get to your day. Thank you to the audience for joining. To your success in sales and in life. Happy selling and happy living. And we'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much, Bob.
Thank you, Chris.